Welcome to Quantumly Kinky with Dr. Veda, where we talk about sex, Eastern medicine, and character development for the multidimensional you. Episode 36, Escaping the Psyop, Energetic and Erotic Sovereignty in an Age of Manipulation. Welcome back to Quantumly Kinky. I am your host, Dr. Veda, and this is your weekly space where our body is technology, our eros is frequency, and our truth is multidimensional. Today, we're diving into psyops. It's a word that's everywhere now, trending in headlines, hashtags, conspiracy corners, carrying this aura of something dark, omnipotent, untouchable. It's whispered like a spell, as if some hidden almighty force is steering every thought that we think. But here's the reality. Psyops are not gods. They're not even divine decrees. They're simply techniques, psychological and energetic tactics designed to pull at our nervous system, our attention, our emotions. And they only work or don't work because of what we give them, our focus, our belief, our unguarded nervous systems. And the ones I'm speaking to today, they aren't just these covert government operations or big propaganda campaigns, but they're the subtle, energetic psyops, the constant streams of messaging, imagery, and microsignals sliding under our conscious radar. They can show up as marketing aesthetics, sexualized advertising, algorithms that reward outrage, and spiritual content that shames your desire, even memes that keep you scrolling. They work by tugging at our most primal systems, our pleasure and pain circuitry, our longing for belonging, our fear of rejection. And in doing so, they can distort our natural erotic current and narrow our perception of reality. This is why you can feel off after certain content or trends. It's not like a psyop literally reached into your body, but it's that your own body responded to an engineered signal. But the deepest truth is this: nothing can override our free will on this planet. Our soul is not hackable. Our consent is not a loophole. Sure, we can be distracted, numbed, or even herded into forgetting that we have choice. But the capacity to choose, it never disappears. The moment that we pause, breathe, and remember our agency, the program collapses. This episode, it's here to bring light to what a psyop really is. How do we recognize it in our body? And how can we use the same tools for our own liberation? So this is not about paranoia. This is about sovereignty. Because in a world that thrives on manipulation, the sexiest thing that we can do is reclaim our frequency. So let's get into it. A psyop is really just a frequency construct. A psyop sounds like this dark, omnipotent thing, like faceless geniuses in a war room plotting your every move. But when you strip away the Hollywood sheen, a psyop is not magic. It's a frequency construct, meaning that it's built from repeated vibrations that come through words, images, sounds, and emotional cues. And they're all perfectly arranged to create a particular state inside our nervous system. It's not a spell from another realm. It's just patterns of stimulus designed to tune us into a frequency of fear, urgency, shame, or obedience. It only works if we tune to it. Let's remember, everything in this reality is vibration. Our body, our words, our thoughts. A psyop, it's simply a repeated vibration packaged as a story. But that doesn't mean that every repeated story is a psyop. Repetition and narrative are neutral. They're the mechanics of culture, teaching, ritual, even intimacy. Think about it. A mantra, a lullaby, a tradition, a prayer. These are also repeated vibrations packaged as stories. That's how human beings encode meaning and memory. But what makes something a psyop is the intention and the frequency behind it. When repetition and story are used to inform, uplift, or transmit wisdom with our conscious consent, that's teaching, that's devotion, that's transmission. But when repetition and story are used to bypass our discernment, keep us in fear, or hijack our nervous system without our awareness, that's manipulation, and that's a psyop. So no, not everything is a psyop. The difference isn't in the tool, repetition, symbols, emotions, but it's in the wielder's intention and in whether we're choosing it consciously or being covertly conditioned by it. And that's the heartbeat of this episode. Not to make us paranoid, but to make us even more sovereign. To help us feel the frequency behind the story, so you can tell if it's programming you or if it's liberating you. And then choose what you allow into your system. When we understand this, the spell breaks. We stop treating psyops like a dark, omnipotent force and start seeing them as just tactics. And tactics lose their power the moment that you see them for what they are. The news cycle, the meme, the influencer, the fact check, it's all designed to create an emotional resonance inside of us. And that resonance becomes a loop. That loop becomes a habit. And that habit becomes a worldview. But here's the truth again. It cannot implant a soul. No matter how invasive a psyop may appear, soul is not a code that can be written or injected. Let me explain. Soul is primordial, pre-programmed by Source itself. It can be distracted, it can be numbed or veiled, but it cannot be installed or removed like a software. This means that our essence, the part of us that dreams, intuits, and remembers, is inviolable. Also, it cannot override our free will. Free will is the prime directive of consciousness. We can be coerced, misled, or hypnotized into forgetting that we have choice. But the capacity to choose never disappears. Even in a hijacked nervous system, the moment that we pause, breathe, and remember our agency, the program breaks. Our yes and our no are cosmic passwords. And here's the last truth. It cannot generate real Eros. Eros is our life force, our turn on, the pulse of creation, and it cannot be manufactured. Simulations can mimic pleasure, but they cannot produce the genuine alchemy of soul meeting body. True Eros arises from connection, from presence, from consent. So when we choose pleasure consciously, we become an unpredictable signal in any system that's designed to control us. So why does this matter? Well, when we remember these three truths, psyops cannot implant a soul, they cannot override our free will, and they cannot generate real Eros, the spell breaks. Psyops feed on fear, urgency, and disconnection. They weaken when we inhabit our body, when we feel our desire, and most importantly, when we exercise our free will. We become less hackable because we're running our own code, and the one imprinted by Source, not by manipulation. So how do we anchor this? Well, pause, place a hand on your heart, and whisper to yourself, my soul is sovereign. Feel the warmth under your palm as a reminder that no one can sign on your behalf in the contract of your soul. We anchor it by breathing deeply. Inhale slowly, exhale even longer. Each long exhale resets your nervous system and reopens the doorway to conscious choice. Let's take a deep breath together. And we anchor it by asking our two questions. How may I serve? And what is your will for me? Let these orient you back to inspired service rather than reactive programming. And then choose a small act of Eros. Taste, touch, movement, a sound, and not what's fed to you, but something that you select. This reboots your system in your own frequency. These simple acts, placing a hand on our heart, breathing deeply, asking our 2 questions, and choosing a small act of Eros, they bring us back into our body, back into our breath, and back into our free will. They break the loop before it can take root and re-anchor us in the current of inspired service that is ours by birthright. Human nervous systems are exquisitely sensitive. They're programmable, and most of the time, they're running on autopilot. That's not a flaw either. It's how we conserve energy. But when we know this, we can stop being an unconscious receiver. The moment that we wake up to this, the psyops collapse. We unplug from the signal. We reclaim our frequency bandwidth. And this is why I like to call these things constructs rather than operations. They're not sacred. They're not inevitable. They're built out of frequency and narrative, not divinity. Psyops are synthetic signals, while you, a living, breathing, feeling being, you are organic source code. You're not just a user of reality, you're its living interface. And the so-called great and powerful people behind these constructs, they're not gods, babe. They're technicians. They're programmers of this consensus reality. Sure, yeah, they know a little psychology, a little marketing, a little symbolism. That's it. And they need our consent, our attention, and our belief. Without those, they have nothing. And here's the shift, so listen closely. You're a technician too, a programmer. Every thought, every breath, every yes, and every no is a line of code. Be intentional, or someone else will write our script for us. So how do we recognize these oh-so-trending psyops? Well, forget the red pills and the blue pills. Our body is the best detector. No algorithm, guru, or whistleblower can do what our own nervous system can do in real time. And when we're attuned to it, our body becomes a living lie detector, carefully reading the frequency of a narrative before our mind even has time to label it. But here are some of the signs that you're going to sense if it's a psyop. Sudden emotional spikes, rage, despair, shame, panic, and these feel disproportionate to the actual situation. This is a hallmark of an engineered or distorted frequency. Here's another sign of a psyop. this language of urgency, scarcity, or only one way. Remember that dogma from last episode? If you're told that you must act now with no room for contemplation, it's a sign that you're being herded rather than invited. Here's another sign. Your body feels tight, contracted, small. Your breath shortens, your jaw clenches, your field collapses. This is your chi saying, something's off. And here's another one. The narrative cuts you off from pleasure, from joy, from community, from remembering nuance. Anything that serves you from your sensual intelligence and connection to others weakens our discernment. And the last one, you feel pushed to react immediately rather than respond consciously. Hijacking the nervous system makes your higher faculties go offline so that you operate in survival mode. So why does this matter? Well, if it hijacks your nervous system, it hijacks your timeline. When you're locked into fight or flight, you're more suggestible. You're less creative and less sovereign. In Eastern medicine terms, this is the collapse of the heart shen and spleen qi. Your clear yang fails to rise and your consciousness dims. In energetic terms, you stop broadcasting your own signal and you start running someone else's program. So pause, take a deep breath, lengthen your exhale to bring the vagus nerve back online. Scan your body. Where are you tight, cold, hot, buzzing? Soften that area with breath or touch. And reclaim your pleasure and the nuance. Even a small act, tasting something sweet, touching something soft, moving slowly, it helps reset our field. And the 2 questions. These are everything because these reorient us back to our own timeline and back to our multidimensional sovereignty. Then there's this other component, right, where we can turn the tables and we can use their tools. Because everything that they use to program us, repetition, symbols, emotion, it's not evil, it's neutral. It's raw technology, ancient as breath. These are currents of consciousness, and currents can be reversed. Repetition is not just propaganda, it's prayer. Every phrase that you whisper again and again and again, it writes itself into the soft tissue of your nervous system. Every word you choose is a spell. And when you speak from your own center, your frequency imprints reality instead of reality imprinting you. And symbols, they're not just brands or logos. They're living archetypes. A candle on your altar, a color on your skin, a sigil you doodle in a notebook. These are your codes, your coordinates in the field. And they tell your body, here I am, and here's what I belong to. An emotion? Well, this is the great amplifier. Sure, they may have used it to push you into fear, urgency, and shame, but you can use it to anchor ecstasy, devotion, sovereignty. When you let your affirmation be sung, moaned, danced, breathed, you're not performing. You're programming. You're writing new code with pleasure as your pen. This is not just escaping the psyop. This is a jailbreak of the soul. This is rewriting the operating system of your life in real time, choosing the frequency that you run on and the symbols you sail under. This is the moment that you stop being the end user of their script and start being the author of your own. Let's take a deep breath together. In an age of psyops, your turn on is your truth detector. If it contracts your body and dims your aliveness, it's not yours. If it expands your breath, opens your senses, awakens your cells, follow it. Don't just escape the psyop. Out-create it. Program your own pleasure. Anchor your own sovereignty. That is multidimensional freedom. And remember, your free will is the prime directive of consciousness. It existed way before the program, before the story, before the fear, and nothing on this planet can override it. Not governments, not psyops, not algorithms, not rituals. They can distract you, numb you, hurt you, but they cannot erase your capacity to choose. Your yes and your no are your cosmic passwords. Every time that you pause, breathe, and choose, you collapse the program and re-enter your own timeline. Remembering your free will is not just a thought, it's an energetic act. Each time that you choose presence, you rewrite the code of your reality. This is your power. To remember that no one can sign on your behalf in the contract of your soul. Your choice is the only true magic, and it is always yours to wield. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Quantumly Kinky with Dr. Veda. Until next time, stay turned on.